Sutter Health is an amazing institution, and its CEO and chairman, Sarah Krevans, is here tonight. And I want to ask Sarah to come up and share some gospel about her relationship with Bernard that is an important relationship of two CEOs running two big institutions, but also happens to go back a long way as well. Join me in welcoming Sarah Krevans.
So I'm actually not going to talk about either KAISER Permanente or about Sutter Health. I'm going to talk about my friend Bernard. Bernard and I met 35 years ago. We both started as administrative residents at KAISER Permanente in San Francisco. We were young, we were dedicated, we were often naive, we were sometimes rivals, but we were always friends. We studied together at KAISER Permanente's leadership classes. We led teams together across the system. We passed each other notes in long meetings. We shared a passion for healthcare, a passion for the communities that we served. And as we moved up in leadership, we shared something else, the experience that Bernard would refer to as being the different person in the room. Because often in those days, I was the only woman, and Bernard was the only African American. But even then, Bernard was bold. He was charismatic. He was willing to take charge. He was willing to take risks, and he always encouraged me to do the same. One of my very favorite early memories of Bernard was the first time that he and I were on the top floor of KAISER's headquarters in Oakland. And where's our KAISER Permanente table here? All right, my friends. Do you remember the board table, that giant table in that room? So Bernard and I snuck. Now, you got to remember we were a lot younger then. Bernard and I snuck into the boardroom during a break. This table stretched for miles. We were awestruck. We tiptoed over and we sat in the chairs at the board table. We were kind of nervous that somebody was going to come in and kick us out. And then Bernard looked at me and he said in that voice, you know that voice, Sarah, let's get up on the table and dance. Well, I thought he was joking. The next thing I know, Bernard is up on the board table. He is on the board table, reaching his hand down, saying, you got to get up here. The view is fantastic. So I stood up with him. Now, let's be honest, even Bernard was nervous. We're standing on the table in the boardroom that we're not even supposed to be in. We're in our 20s. And Bernard looks around. We weren't even on the org chart. We were so low in the organization. He looks around and he says to me, this view is great. And I said, Bernard, I think we should get out of this room. And he looked at me and he said, Sarah, one day you and I, we're both going to belong in rooms like this. And of course, my friend Bernard, he did way more than just belong. Bernard led. Bernard conquered. Bernard created a vision, and he made that vision happen. It's been incredibly inspiring to watch Bernard over the years. Bernard championed the Affordable Care Act and was committed to seeing KAISER Permanente on the healthcare exchanges. And many of us watched healthcare exchanges fall apart in other states. And we knew that in states where KAISER Permanente operated, the healthcare exchange would stay strong. Bernard's vision of health was broad and deep, and it encompassed so much more than just medical care. He was a vocal champion of racial equality and understood that healthcare meant providing health equity. He inspired generations of leaders to stand up as champions for diversity and inclusion. Bernard used that powerful voice of his to advocate for people who couldn't advocate for themselves. Bernard talked about having a bigger-than-life mission. How many of you have heard him say that, a bigger-than-life mission? And I think that was fitting for somebody who had a bigger-than-life impact. He had a bigger-than-life impact on KAISER Permanente. He had a bigger-than-life impact on healthcare. He had a bigger-than-life impact on the Bay Area and on the world. And yet, when I would see Bernard, he would talk with the most pride, not about his professional accomplishments, but about his 3 sons and his wife, Denise. Last year, I was back in that boardroom. And of course, I was at a meeting of an association, and Greg Adams had offered to let us use the boardroom. So, of course, I asked Greg, which chair does Bernard usually sit in? So I went and I sat in the chair and I texted Bernard, guess who's here? 45 seconds later, I feel a hand on my shoulder. And I hear a whisper in my ear, so you're going to get up on the table? So I am not going to ask you to get up on the table, but I am going to ask you, can you get up on your feet and can you join me in thanking and toasting Bernard Tyson for making such a difference in the room and such a difference in our world? Bernard, we'll never forget you.